Well, I mean, I could just throw us into the podcast if you guys are ready to go, unless you guys want
Yeah,
a
yeah.
preamble.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, well, let's just throw it in then. So, welcome to an episode of the Halcyon Frequency Podcast. This is episode 8. I'm going to update this document in front of me, and it is airing on March 6th. 2022. I'm blind and I'm hosting this Halcyon Frequency podcast, and I'm joined by one Bellinaire. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Better than earlier this week, for sure.
That's good. And Suboi, who is also here. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing pretty good. I'm on spring break right now, so I've had lots of time to do other projects beyond school.
Spring break, that's when you get on a speedboat, hang out on a beach, and drink a lot of alcohol, right?
Yeah, and you spread COVID everywhere.
Yeah, that's what you do. That's
Exactly.
the good times. Not exactly a beach, but it involves water. How's that bathroom, Bellinaire?
I don't really know yet, to be honest. So we had a little water issue coming through the ceiling from upstairs neighbor in our washroom where the toilet and sauna is. So that was fun.
My neighbors above me have decided to like renovate or build a log cabin or I don't know what, but it's been like drills and what sounds like a table saw above me.
Yeah.
Which I used to complain about them a lot because they have little children up there, right? So it's a lot of like weird stomping, and like obvious like not jumping on furniture, but like loud kid running around sounds a lot. So I always complain about them anyways. But honestly, I would take the children running around sounds over whatever the heck this is.
I mean, I've been doing some renovations to the trailer that Suboi and I live in, because it's like from the 70s and has never been like properly repaired or renovated before.
Yes, but do you have a neighbor living beneath you who's streaming video games on the
No.
internet? No.
No, we don't have anyone who cares, so...
Okay. Well, that's just benefiting the living space around you. This is annoying, especially when they're like doing it at like 7 o'clock at night, which is not uncommon for
Yeah,
them.
that sounds like my upstairs neighbor as well. They're doing like river dance or something. Feels like they're trying to come through the floor or something.
I mean, if they're gonna do river dances, at the very least, they could have like the decency to like do it somewhere where everybody else could enjoy it instead of like
Yeah.
just making noise. This past week is like finding small talk for a podcast is just getting harder for me right now because all I can really say is like I can complain about my neighbors. It's been raining a lot.
It's that time of the year as well. It's like
I mean, I have
waiting for
stuff
spring
to
to
talk
come
about.
and
What do you got,
nothing's
Suey?
Well, I mean, it's completely just like what's going on in my life, but I'm working on that renovation, which is a lot of work. I've only started priming some cabinets, and so yeah, but the hardware on them is so old. It's so ugly too, because it's like the handles is literally plastic. So yeah, I'm working on that, and then I've been doing like some job application stuff a little bit since I do graduate. Well, I don't graduate, but I finish classes mid-June or late June.
In regards to renovating, like, are you looking to replace those cabinets? Because like hardware stores are fun.
Oh, we've been to a hardware store, Suboi's dad and I, and so we looked at paint and all kinds of stuff, and we're not going to replace the actual cabinets. We're just going to paint them, but then we're going to put new hardware on them. So that's like the handle, the hinge, the thing that holds it shut.
Yeah, I got to do a whole lot of that stuff when my parents were renovating their house before I moved out, which was like literally 10 years ago now.
Yeah, back when I lived with my family, they wouldn't let me do any handiwork type stuff. So this is all a learning process for me. Like, I've never done anything like this before.
Now I just call my landlord and be like, the toilet makes a weird noise, and sometimes water comes out of it, and they're like, aight, and then a plumber shows up and he fixes it.
I mean, that's why you have the landlords and maintenance people.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I did as well in the middle of the night, call an angry maintenance guy to go yell at the neighbor. Why is there water coming through the ceiling?
Did you ever find out why there was water coming through the ceiling?
They weren't really clear. there was apparently like all the drains in the shower and everything was like totally clogged on their apartment, and who knows what. They were working there quite a while, but they haven't really called me or anything since. So I don't know.
The last time I had a an issue in my apartment, it was like the toilet just started making this weird noise when I'd flush it. Like, you know, like the sound that a toilet makes when you flush it and then like it fills back up for like a minute?
Yep.
Like, or like a couple seconds, there'll be like that weird, like the water running sound of it filling the tank back up. Well, that would just keep going like indefinitely for like 30, 40 minutes. And then it would just stop at a point. Like it wouldn't overflow or anything. And then one day it just kind of started overflowing. So eventually like I called my landlord and they're like, yeah, we'll send our guy down. Just turn the water off. I'm like, okay. So I turned the water off and he showed up later in the day and he comes in, he's like, man, your apartment is so clean. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I'm so used to like coming into like rental units and then it just being like a disaster. He's like, the last place I was in, like, you'd be surprised. I don't think they've drained their bathtub in like 2 years. I was like, what are you even talking about? Like, what kind of people are you like fixing apartments for? Jeez.
Yeah, that's what the maintenance guy said here as well. That the upstairs apartment is apparently not in a great condition.
Like, I think I'm lazy about that sort of thing, and like I let things get really messy, but how?
Yeah, I don't know. Like my cousin's a plumber and he says similar things. He's like, a lot of the places I get sent to, it's like it's a nightmare. It's like, I guess like the people who need maintenance people are the people who also don't drain their bathtub.
Who would have thought?
Yeah. or you live in a house that's not been renovated in 30 years and it's kind of falling apart around you.
Yeah, it just turns into a nightmare factory. Or you've just been living in the same like rental place for so long and you've just never told your landlord about problems and they just kind of like pile up.
That too. Like I've lived here almost 15ish years now or more, and they've never really done any kind of a renovation, but like very little.
That's kind of concerning. That's like when I was talking to Tarn Adams on one of the first interviews I did with him. He's like, yeah, like so I'm moving. I'm like, well, like, any particular reason why? He's like, well, you see, the maintenance guy walked out onto the porch and he fell through it.
Oh my!
Yeah, that's
like,
not great.
That's bad. He's like, that's fine. I've never been out there, but like, you know.
Yeah, but I think like the strategy here has been that people kind of live here like a couple of years and move out, and then they renovate when the person moves out. But since I've been stuck here for 15 years, they haven't done that.
They just like haven't like gotten around to doing the thing that they do
that's
when
waiting,
you move.
like, can that one Finn move away from there already? Like, we want to renovate that apartment, but he's just stuck there.
Yeah, I don't know. How do people renovate apartments? Like, where do you put your do you like get a like rental unit and like move all of your stuff into like the storage unit and then they renovate the apartment? Like, how does that even work? I don't know.
Yeah.
Shove all your stuff in the corner?
Near us is a lot of like student housing. They were renovating some of those, so they just kept moving like people, like musical chairs from apartment to apartment.
Oh yeah, I guess you could do that. My first apartment, which I lived in for 3 months, and then a like, I don't know, 2 by 2 meter section of ceiling just went thunk and landed in the living room. And I'm not like dancing around it when I say that we could see stars through that hole.
That's not great.
They were like, well, we could move you into this apartment in the same building. I'm like, well, have you redone that section of ceiling? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, look at the weather. And it's like rain for the next 6 weeks. And they're like, well, I mean, I don't think that section of the ceiling is going to cave in. I'm like, how about I just move out? And they were like, okay. It's like, let's break this lease.
Yeah, some of the landlords and some of the places are a little sketchy.
A little bit. I mean, the guy was younger than me, I think. So.
Yeah, we were. I was doing exchange student things in Sheffield in UK, and some of those apartments that they're renting to students, especially out of country, are very, very sketchy. Like, I've never seen that bad condition housing in here.
I'm very rarely the person that you'll hear say knock down the old building and build more expensive housing that nobody can afford, but like please somebody burn down the building that I used to live in because
Yeah.
that building shouldn't exist. Like
I kind of agree on that. Like half the city center here could be bulldozed and something better built there. And it's especially like old
the
concrete horrible buildings all over the
the
place.
biggest red flag I saw when I was moving into that building was there's a sign in the elevator that says please don't jump.
Yeah, that's an immediate. Yeah, I think I'm moving away.
I mean, it was only a 3-story building, and the stairs were really like not that bad. But it's like the stairs were like nice stairs, so like the stairs were fine. But that elevator, I'm glad I live in this apartment now.
Yeah,
I
I'm
used to
definitely.
go to.
Yeah, you go.
Sorry. Yeah, I used to go to like a really old church, and so they had a small elevator to get from like the basement to the second floor. And I went in it a couple of times and I was moving stuff around while volunteering. And oh my gosh. It was the old ones you see in movies, you know, where like it has the like metal thing you cover it with and everything.
There was this old church that I used to do like summer like Bible school thing for 2 weeks in the summers, and I now as an adult I look back on that and go, that was just an excuse for my parents to go on vacation for 2 weeks. But it was really just like this 3-story building. The first floor was like kind of a normal A-frame cabin, which was like suspended off the ground. Second floor was like the main level floor, which was like half underground, and then there was this third floor that was beneath that we would go down to sometimes to get stuff to like bring upstairs to use for activities and things. And that third floor was like just dirt, like it wasn't finished at all, and it was like the stairs like stopped being made like built stairs and just became concrete stairs at a point, and I think that people died in there. It was maybe the creepiest
The horror basement.
I've ever seen. It was
Yeah.
like I don't, it's a church. It's supposed to be fine, right? But I don't know. That was the creepiest basement I've ever been in my life.
I have not found a single church without a creepy area somewhere in it. Like every single church that I've had the opportunity to explore, which I grew up kind of religious, and so I kind of ended up having a chance to explore an okay number of them. There was always a creepy place somewhere in every church.
The church that I think I spent the most time in didn't, but that's because that church was the first year I was in that church was this old rickety building that was like one floor, and it was kind of fine. It was basically just like a kitchen, a kind of common area to like hang out in, a few small rooms on the side where you could like have Sunday school and stuff, and then just like the cathedral. But they bulldozed it like 2 years after I started going, like maybe a year and a half after I started going there, and built this brand new building. So it was always like smelled like new carpet. Never really like got to the point where it could be creepy again. So, but yeah, churches tend to have that feeling to them, that kind of musty old feeling that just makes buildings feel disconcerting, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Also, like, so in middle school, I would go to the church and they do like a game night where they would shut off all the lights in the church. And then you would like run around, play games, right? And usually they were like games where you run away and hide, and then someone has to come find you, and like you're trying to run and get some kind of objective done while this person's trying to catch you, you know? And it was just terrifying.
There was one time I played laser tag in that church, which was kind of great, actually. Maybe the most fun I ever had in that church was just playing laser tag that one evening. It was like around Christmas or something. I just remember because it was cold outside and we had laser tag and we were there and we were like, well, there's 8 of us. Do you guys want to play laser tag? Running around in a church shooting at each other seems a little strange currently, but I don't know. It was fun at the time.
There were multiple secret passageways in the church I was in too.
What?
Yeah.
Was it like a game of Clue or something?
No, but there was secret passageways. So like there was the big entryway area, and then on both sides there was like classrooms, right? Because there were like classrooms for Sunday school and whatnot, right?
Uh-huh.
And so there was a secret passageway that went from one side to the other, from one classroom to the other classroom section, and over the big giant entryway.
So, were these secret passageways, or was this like just ways for people who like worked there to get places quicker?
Well, it was very like kind of sus, honestly. Like it was stable and everything, but it kind of just felt like we were walking through a closet that happened to connect.
Odd.
Yeah, it was great.
So I know that this might come as a surprise to some people if this is the first episode of this show that you're listening to, but this is a video games podcast, and when we come back from this short break, we are going to talk about the video games that we've been playing this week. So stay tuned, and we will be right back.
Hello there, I'm Mojess. Be sure to add an underscore to the middle if you're browsing on Twitch. If you like a variety of strategy, simulation, and management style games in a cozy, wholesome environment, I have got the channel for you. Stop by at 10 a.m. Mountain Time, which is UTC-7, Mondays through Thursdays to join in on the fun. And now, please enjoy the rest of the podcast. Thanks so much for listening.
All right, everybody, we are back. This is the Halcyon Frequency Podcast, and I am blind, and I'm joined by Bellinair and Suboi. And this is the part of the show where Larry comes out and sings a silly song. But after that, we're going to talk about some video games. So, Bellinair, do you want to tell us the tales of the Elden Rings?
I guess I can. So,
You guess.
like all of the internet, I've been playing Elden Ring as well, and it's been great. It's probably gonna be my game of the year. Like I don't see anything else being better than that. This is probably one of the best games I've ever played, to be honest.
Are you expecting this to be a very short year or a very slow year?
I don't know. Probably probably a very slow year. I don't know. Who knows what comes out at the end of the year or towards the end of the year. But it is just such a good game. Like obviously you have to like that type of game. If you don't like Souls style games, then you don't like that type of games. But this is very much the same, but just everything is improved, and there's a lot of open world features and all kinds of things that just really blow me away.
How much of a Dark Souls, but it's Breath of the Wild is this?
It's very much that, to be honest. Like all the mechanics and everything is still the same. Like literally down to all the damage types and like little details is exactly like Dark Souls. So if you know those, it's all of that knowledge carries over. Also, a lot of the assets and a lot of the like weapons and everything is exactly the same as previous games. They just ported pretty much everything from the previous games into this one, and then just added about same amount of more things on top of that. And then they threw like a massive open world into it, which actually is kind of interesting because comparing to like a lot of other open world games like Skyrims and Breath of the Wild as well. All of those games have they have a massive world, but it usually is pretty empty and have these like a kind of copy paste, especially like Skyrims and so on. Just dungeons that are copy pasted from one to another, and it's like, well, this is the 7th of this kind of same dungeon I've done. I got a couple items to sell and really nothing interesting. But then in Dark Souls or Elden Ring, I mean. Pretty much anywhere you go, you'll find something interesting. Although obviously they also recycle a lot of the content. But like the
So when you say recycling content, are you talking about like enemy types? Are you talking about like I've seen that tree before, or that rock is weirdly
enemy types for sure.
Recent looking.
But they also keep throwing new ones, and they like vary them a little bit. Like there's this kind of tree guardian avatar boss that I've probably killed like 7 times now. But it's always a little bit different. But yeah, they definitely do recycle a lot of the enemies between the places, and also like these mini dungeons that you find here and there are actually kind of all over the place. Some of the layouts on those and some of the assets, like how they've done, you can see that okay, this is the exact same thing I saw in the other dungeon, like 7 times already. But it's not in a really bad way. Sometimes it feels like they could have varied this a little more.
So I think one of the main things that I've heard out, because I'm not a Dark Souls person. I don't play those games. But the kind of main criticism I've seen coming at this game is that it is too much like previous Dark Souls games. And I've heard or read a couple of reviews basically just kind of wishing that it kind of was a little bit more deliberate in its mechanics. Like there's a lot of bespoke things that you're doing in this game that just end up taking place in menus. And an example of kind of bespoke mechanics is like sitting down in Red Dead Redemption and taking 5 minutes to skin an animal, or polishing or sharpening your swords in Monster Hunter. Do you feel that like the game could have gone more in that direction, or do you think it kind of works the way it is?
I think it works better as it is. It definitely doesn't have that much of a menial maintenance and things that you need to do. And there is like a crafting system they added in this one, but it's mostly like consumables, like poison removal and stuff like that. You didn't actually have to like grind materials to make weapons and everything. Everything is something you discover or drops from an enemy. In general, like the whole joy of discovery is like amazing in this, because literally everything you see on the map is something you can go to. Like you see an amazing building somewhere, or like there's a ruined church or whatever, you can eventually get to there, and there is something for you to find there or something to kill there. There's usually at least one boss in like each of the locations as well. And there's always like something to go for. But yeah, it's exactly like that other Dark Souls. So if you don't like that type of game, then it's definitely not for you. So I can definitely see people who maybe played like a Dark Souls 1 or something and wanted something different. This is definitely not something different. But on the other hand, the fans kind of wanted more of the same as well. So you can't change it too much. But on the other hand, like they also like the previous game they did, the Sekiro, was a lot different. Like it's obviously a very similar type of game, but they did change like literally how the movement works and everything. Like it was a lot more 3D movement with the grappling hook, and you had only one weapon, so you didn't have like a choice of weapons or anything.
From the outside, the FromSoft seems to kind of have like 4 prongs of their design. There's the mech games that they haven't made one in forever. There's kind of more of the like attack and like aggro and parry focus of Bloodborne.
Yeah, especially Sekiro. Sekiro went like to the other end fully on that parrying and everything.
Yeah. Sekiro like kind of looked more like like patterns and parries and all of that kind of thing.
Much is,
Whereas this seems to be very much in that Dark Souls mode. And my question, because like I think you've played all of the Dark Souls games, haven't you?
Yeah, except the Demon Souls. The first one I didn't play.
Yeah, because that's never made its way to PC, if I'm not mistaken.
No.
It does run really well in emulators. But since Demon Souls has never made it to PC, that's the one that you've missed. And my question is how is it like difficulty-wise compared to the previous games?
I mean, it's been a while since I played any of the actual Dark Souls. Like Sekiro was the previous one I played. It's not been too hard, to be honest. Like it feels easier, and it feels like there's a lot more like build variety because it's not so hard, so you can kind of do whatever you want and pick any weapon and pick any spell and just do well with that. So it definitely feels easier. I feel like at the moment where I'm currently in the game, although I did hear that late game it like spikes the difficulty somewhat, but I'm not there yet. I'm only like 50 something hours in, so
only like 50 something.
There is another 50 plus easily there.
Just getting going.
But it feels like currently where I'm in the game, I feel like I'm maybe a little too powerful. Like stuff is getting a little too easy. Like I just before we started recording this podcast, I was playing and I two-shotted a boss, which wasn't very difficult, obviously.
Yeah, I've seen some like not I've heard kind of interesting reports out of the difficulty of this one, just because like you have Torrent the horse, right, which I've been told has a double jump, and you can do some wild stuff and just kind of outrun a lot of the enemies. I know that I've definitely seen some enemies outrun the horse, but the majority of like normal mobs, you can just kind of walk away from them. So like it's kind of interesting to see From do different things. Like I'm a game design nerd, even if I don't play a lot of mainstream games. Like I love seeing what they're doing, and just From Software has a very kind of focused design style where they want the player to be channeled in towards an encounter, and then you have to overcome said encounter, and then they give you a bit of a break. And their sense of pacing is very, very deliberate, which as a nerd of this sort of thing, I have a lot of respect for that, the way they design their corridors and avenues. And how does that translate to the open world? Like, does it still kind of have that up and down feel, or does it end up feeling more like do they fall into the Ubisoft trap of like, oh, there's just stuff all over the place, or do they actually do they give you the player time to breathe?
There is definitely stuff all over the place, but they also give you breathe. Like the open world is, like you said, you can just basically ride a horse and run past most things. Like I was running into this area today, and a massive dragon just pops out of the corner, and I'm like, nope, and I just ran past the dragon and whatever was behind him. So you can just keep a lot of the stuff. But they definitely have like the open world is like very open. Like you can explore things. You can also skip a lot of content, at least temporarily. It might be required for a story later, but you can actually like skip major portions of the game and go see what's behind them before actually doing the content, which is a really interesting approach. But then they have like these more like a more like sectioned off areas. Like there's this like Stormvale Castle, which is one of the main storyline areas, and it's definitely like much more of the older traditional Dark Souls style, like you said, like corridors and everything. But it also has like a million branching paths of how you can approach the place, which is really interesting. But yeah, they kind of combine both of that, but it also feels like the whole, like you said, that there are like masters of building like these kind of arenas for bosses, and then like gauntlets to get to the bosses. But the open world seems to be something new to them as well, and some of the design around it is possibly not that great. Some of the bosses especially work a little weird because they're not sectioned off into this like a set area arena where you fight it, but it's actually open world. So they have like mechanics like especially some of the dragon fights outside are a little glitchy. Like the boss may despawn and teleport back to its location if you take it too far away. And
like
some
pathfinding issues, or
sorry,
like pathfinding issues?
Yeah, not really pathfinding issues, but it's just like if you take it too far away from the spawn location, it just teleports back to the spawn location. But it often actually does keep the health, like compared to other games where that happens, they usually just reset the whole encounter. But at least this one still keeps the health, so you just can go back and poke it again. But like there's terrain issues. Some of the bigger mobs, like the dragons, they don't really know how to play in some of the more rougher terrain. Like if it's flat, it's fine, but in especially some parts of the areas, I was really frustrated by one of the dragons that kept teleporting around and glitching and doing all kinds of weird things.
Now, do you think that that's more of a fault of the, like, just their engine and the way those games work, or do you think that's something that can be fixed?
No, I don't think it's just how it works. It's just some of the areas may not be designed exactly well for that kind of encounter, and they should have left a little bit more space. I mean, they could easily, like that dragon that I keep saying, could be improved a lot if they actually just deleted a couple of the random plants and terrain features that are around there, and then it would be glitching a lot less. So it's something they could definitely do if it didn't really change anything other than remove a couple plants from the terrain.
Because like I'm thinking back to a lot of classic Dark Souls bosses, and it's like you walk through the fog, and then you're just in a room.
Yeah.
Like maybe there'll be stairs or a chair in the corner, but like you're mostly just kind of in a room.
Yeah.
And then that that's where the fight happens.
Yeah.
And these, I guess, are more like on like terrain, right?
Yeah, but they do also have those that kind of bosses in the like more sectioned off areas. So you get the both experiences basically.
Yeah, it's kind of funny watching your streams of this game because it's like you'll go from like being in this weird, like almost psychedelic, beautiful landscape to then like, oh, I found a doorway, and now I'm just in a Dark Souls level.
Yeah,
it's kind of funny like how quickly it shifts.
And then you have like teleport, like you have from the start of the game you have freedom of teleporting from any of the sites of grace, which is basically the bonfires from the previous game. So basically like save points, and you have the freedom of teleporting between them from the start of the game. So you can easily just go wherever you feel like quickly, and okay, I don't like this area, I go back to the other area. But they also have these like teleports that take you all over the place, and suddenly you do find yourself like, this doesn't look like where I was a second ago. But they also have done like visually this game is like just insanely pretty. Like some of the areas we've been like in the last couple of days while I've been streaming the game are just like breathtaking. Like they know how to do amazing visuals.
One of the streamers that I watch later in the day usually very much slow plays games like this. Like it famously took him 500 hours almost to finish. Why am I Death Stranding, the backpack walkie slow game. Because he would literally just like find a pretty vista and then just like sit his character down, and just hang out for a bit, smoke a cigarette.
Yeah, I can see people
enjoying
doing this,
the scenery. And I have a feeling it's going to take him about 1,000 hours to finish Elden Ring.
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's just some amazing locations. Just stare at what's going on there, and then you have a dynamic weather. You have a day-night cycle as well, so you can pop in different times of the day there, see what it looks like.
I wish that I could tolerate the camera in Souls games because the art design in them is wonderful.
Yeah, the camera has always been the enemy number one in Dark Souls. So it's all that's the one thing that's carried over from game to game, and it's always been bad, and it's still as bad as it's always been.
That part is unfortunate, but I'm glad to hear that you're enjoying the Elden Ring. And since you said that you're only 50 hours in, I'm sure we'll talk with you about Elden Ring again.
Likely next week if I'm on the next week's episode.
I don't know if you're scheduled for the next one, but if you want to come on, like you can absolutely come on and talk about it. So Sui's still on this podcast.
Yeah.
I don't think she got up and left or anything. So do you want to tell us about the time that you joined a cult?
Yeah. My goodness. Yeah,
it's right there in the document. Honey, I joined a cult under Sui here.
It's a game.
Yeah, published by Team 17. It's a video game.
Yeah, it's a game by Team 17.
Yeah, tell us about Honey, I Joined a Cult. I think Belliner's played this one too.
Yeah. I started playing it like right before the demos happened, and once they finished, I started playing it again. Yeah, I expected it to just kind of not be good, honestly. Like, when I first started playing it, I was like, I mean, it could be good. I guess I'll try it out. That was kind of my viewpoint, right? But I've actually been pretty impressed. It feels more in-depth than Prison Architect was. And Prison Architect, to me, felt like it kind of lacked depth because it just felt like you got them happy and that was it, you know? You got your prisoners happy and that was it. But this one, like, you have all these resources you have to manage, too.
I never played a release version of Prison Architect, but I remember it kind of just becoming, like, the... more of just I build a big prison game. Less of
pretty much.
Less of a super serious management game, but it was always fun. Like, I enjoyed Prison Architect a whole bunch. But...
Honey, I Joined a Cult is like if Prison Architect was more focused on being a management sim than it is on being a sandboxy build a prison game.
Okay. Because, like, it certainly has that look, but, like, every time I've seen people playing it, it already seems like there's a bunch of stuff constructed. So, like, what's the gameplay loop of Honey, I Joined a Cult and gave everybody Cthulhu hats? Like what's the minute-to-minute in that game?
Basically, you have a bunch of resources that you're managing, so you have to have enough faith or your people get really upset and angry. You gotta have money to keep building stuff and researching further and having the ability to then get more people in your cult. And then you have a couple other resources you need to keep up. So if you want to get better people, there's a PR one that you have to keep up. And, like, if your heat level, which is like how aware the public is of what you're doing, gets too high, then there'll be protests, and apparently you can even have like a police raid if it gets too bad.
Really?
Yeah. But during those times, your PR rating drops drastically
Weird.
if you do those. So like you want to keep your PR up while keeping your heat down and also getting all of the other resources so that you can keep researching and upgrading and all that.
So like, I know this game's it's one of them. It's one of them. There's the early accessy thingies. What kind of things are they adding to the game, if you know, and like what's there right now? Like, is it something that can be recommended currently, or?
I haven't looked at a roadmap or anything, but I know that like within the game it talks about them adding some more. Basically, your leader can research like specific things that they do.
Mm-hmm.
So like, oh, we're focused on darkness, or oh, we're focused on something else. I think darkness is the only one they have right now, and then it says that more is being added. I actually gave them feedback on Twitter and told them that, hey, it's kind of hard to know how to get each resource once the tutorial goes, you know. I haven't played for a week. I have no idea how to do things anymore. So getting some documentation that we can access at any point, hopefully they do. I gave them feedback, and they said they relayed it, so yeah.
Good to know. But yeah, so is there anything else you want to say about Honey? Actually, Belliner, do you want to say anything about Honey, I Joined a Cult?
Yeah, I mean, I played it as well a few months ago now. The big thing that separates it from like a Prison Architect and a bunch of the other like these management kind of games is that it actually has an end goal. So instead of just expanding, there is actually an end goal, how you win the game. So you need to...
What is that?
Through the leader research, like you pick one of the like kind of evils that you want to go with. Like your cult starts as like a health spa basically almost, and then you start going into more and more crazier cult things, and then you actually go to like actual like magic and things, and then through the darkness you can basically end the world, for example. So there is actually like an end goal that you have to aim for.
How long is the game? Because I'm like probably like, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours in, and I feel like I've barely scratched the surface.
It took me a while, but I hope they... that was one of the things that was kind of annoying, because it got a little grindy at the end. To get to the ending thing, you needed a lot of money and a lot of like the leader darkness points and so on. So just kind of had to grind. But at least one of the updates seemed to have improved that. What I read from the patch notes a while ago. It took me 18 hours to finish one run of the whatever early access version it was.
Okay. That makes sense. Alright. I mean, I also have more stuff to talk about. So there's Final Fantasy XIV is having 6.1 launch in mid-April, I believe. Sadly, they're not adding the Island Sanctuary, which was what I was most excited for, which is like a thing where they're basically adding a little area where you can farm and stuff. But yeah, they're adding a new what's it called? Ultimate, I believe. And then I think that was 6.1. I was looking at some screenshots from the live letter that was today. And then they're adding some more story, of course. I think they're doing the housing. That's what they've been talking about, is doing. So they're adding a new housing district that's in the snowy area of the game. And yeah.
Yeah, new resident.
Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I actually have the list of the changes coming, and yeah, there's the Imperium new residential district, new dungeon, new trials, new alliance raid, and this is the most important change. If you played Final Fantasy, there's gonna be more Hildebrand quests.
Oh yeah, they're adding more glamour plates too.
These are all words. I don't know what any of them mean, but they sound like a video game, so it sounds fun.
Oh, it is. It's very fun. You need to play.
Oh, I definitely don't. Speaking of other things I definitely don't need to play, did you find the Lost Ark yet?
Okay, so I played that like a lot. I probably got like 75 hours into it, like in the few weeks after it launched, and then I just kind of stopped.
So
so
what's your thoughts on Lost Ark then in that case?
So it was fun when I was first playing it, but the problem is once you get to endgame, it's a grind. And I was watching a YouTube video, and apparently, if you play completely free to play, you cannot get max tier gear before the next tier comes out.
Apparently, the only way to do it is you have to level multiple characters.
Yeah, you do. But even then, if you're completely free to play, you can't actually get the best gear before the next set of gear comes out.
Well, I mean, it's made in Korea, so doesn't exactly surprise me. Melanie,
Yeah,
did
and
you
it's
end up
like-
playing any more of that or not?
No, I only played the open beta what they had a while ago. But I've been meaning to get to it, but I've been traveling and then I've been playing Elden Ring and all of this, so I haven't really gotten around. But I do have plans to play it at some point. I did hear today that they are getting soon ready for the next year to be released, and that's when it apparently got like really good in Korea. So they're kind of trying to fast track through the early parts of the game in the West and get to the actual good meat that they had.
See, I don't like the meat of the game though, because it's just logging in for a few hours every day, several hours, and just doing like the same couple things over and over. There's like a boss fight thing that you do where you don't even get to see any sort of tells for the fight except for the boss's movement. And then you don't even get to see their health bar, so you never know how far along you are. And then there's like a thing that just swarms you and it gives stuff too, but the amount of times you have to do that to actually progress is ridiculous. Like,
Yeah, it's
that's why I quit.
pretty
'cause-
standard like a MMO endgame grindy thing. Yeah, you just log in for the
Yeah,
daily
it just
stuff and
sounds
then you
like an MMO.
wait for the new content.
Yeah, that just seems like the way they keep you on that treadmill long enough for them to make new stuff for you to actually play.
Oh, to get to see new content too, you have to upgrade your gear. So like, I got to endgame, and so once you get to level 50, you're at endgame, right? You can still keep leveling, but it's really slow. And you had to get to a certain point in your item level in order to actually go on with the main story.
Huh.
So you had to grind for like a week to get further in the story.
Yeah, that sounds like an MMO. Or at least a free-to-play MMO.
Yeah, I'm not a free-to-play player usually. I just wanted to try it out, and yeah.
I mean, one thing I will say about Lost Ark is, damn, that game looks pretty.
Oh yeah, it's pretty.
It's really pretty. It's like the one thing I really have to say about that game, because I haven't played it at all. I installed it and then couldn't log in on the first day and then uninstalled it. That was how my relationship with that game went. I was like, you know what? How about I just like reclaim these 80 gigs? Yeah. And I felt good about that. But
I hear it's
that-
it is a pretty good experience apparently. At least from like the starting to about 50 and then maybe ignoring the end game, like at least for a free experience.
A family member of mine who doesn't play video games very often, she's playing through it, and I think she has about 11 hours in it now, and she's been playing it since launch, and she plays it for about 30 minutes every evening, does like 1 or 2 encounters and then logs out, doesn't finish dailies, and says that it's amazing. So I guess if you play slowly and don't grind like crazy, it's maybe a better game?
Yeah, it's interesting to see like a more like different approaches to games. So like we are obviously like a very heavy end users of gaming, streaming, and all so on, and seeing like more casual approach to gaming in general. Like I was visiting my family last week, and apparently my family has gotten into this mobile game about farming, and they're like insanely addicted to that. But it's
Oh, my mom.
it's crazy to watch.
My mom was really big on one.
What's the name of this game, if I can
I
ask?
don't know.
Or is this
It's,
like a Finnish-only thing?
Oh, Heyday, says the
Heyday.
yeah.
Ooh,
Sounds familiar.
I feel like I've seen ads for that.
Yeah.
Heyday.
And they are doing like fully like free to play as well and everything. It's like it's fun to see because like they've never been like gamers. Like I've been the gamer of the family, and it's fun to see that they are like almost soon retirement age, and they suddenly discover this joy of playing games as well.
No wonder I've heard of this. It's made by Supercell, the people who made Clash of Clans.
It's also the Finnish company.
Also
yeah,
a Finnish company,
Yes.
yeah. Also owned by Tencent entirely. So actually a Chinese company.
Yeah, well, the company itself is in Finland. So.
Yeah. They're just their parent company is Chinese, but yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. No, I don't know. I think we could do a whole episode just on like the differences in the way people consume games, because like I will buy games for different reasons. Like I own a couple games that I play like 10 minutes at a time. Like I've been playing Trials on and off, and it's like I shouldn't talk about Trials, but it's like I will probably continue playing Trials for the next couple of years because Trials 1 is such a good game. Have either of you guys played Heroes Hour?
No,
Haven't even heard of it.
I watched.
Either of you even played the demo?
No, I watched FG Squared play some of it, but that's all I've seen.
All right. Well, I'm going to say mean things about Heroes Hour for the next 5 minutes. So Heroes Hour is a perfect example of how to not design UI. Heroes Hour at its core, it's Heroes of Might and Magic 3, realistically, like structure-wise. It is a very cutesy pixel art. It almost looks like Stream Raiders, just to give Sui kind of a mental image.
Okay.
Like open world strategy game based around heroes. So you have a hero and they have an army attached to them, and that army is various minions that can be one of a whole bunch of different races. I played one game as the orcs and I played one game as the humans, and there's probably a good game there, but the problem with this game is it's so deep in its style and its visuals that it wrecks the game in the process. The battles are auto battles. So unlike Might and Magic, which was like, your hex grid with turn-based battles, they're auto battles like a Stream Raiders or something. They're one-screen-sized auto battles, and the little units, they bump into each other. They're made out of very few pixels, and they bounce like crazy. And I can't discern one unit from another. Half the time, I can't even tell who are my units and who are the enemy units. The way you interact with the battles is at the beginning you set where your enemies spawn, where your units spawn, and the enemies set where they spawn, and then you have abilities that hero has or gear that hero has, which either uses a mana pool or it doesn't, depending on the ability. Or it's either just strictly on a cooldown or there. And when you hover your mouse over the spell book, they made the worst decision possible, which is they attached the camera to the mouse, and you can't detach the camera from the mouse. So I don't get motion sick from this, but it's really annoying and extremely hard, especially when all of these units are already bouncing around the screen. You can't pause in the battles, and you're trying to cast these spells, and the UI for the spells shrinks off of the screen when you're not mousing over it to save on screen real estate. So you can't even see your spells or your cooldowns at any time until you mouse over the spell book, which then pops up and covers half of the screen. And also then the camera follows the mouse down under your UI and is not looking at the battle anymore. So actually, the act of actually playing the battles I found very unpleasant and not fun because of that. Then combine that with also, there's a lot of units in this game. Like a lot. So a lot of them are very small, and they all do the same bouncing thing. So I don't even know what I'm fighting against half the time when a fight starts. Now, as far as the game itself goes in the overworld, playing it felt fine. It felt like playing a lighter Might and Magic. It seemed to have a lot of the same things. There are buildings that will have neutral units at them that you can fight that give you resources to your capital. Heroes respawn at your capital the next turn after they die, so like death isn't that bad. There's a limited number of units you can hire per week based on the amount of capitals that you have, and as you expand, you can play against the AI. It is worth noting, it says it has online play, but the only online play available in the game right now is split screen and local co-op. And because I don't have any friends, I've got no way of trying that multiplayer out. So overall, it's like, I really, really, really want to like this game because I love Heroes of Might and Magic 3. I haven't played that game in over a decade, and I know I could go back and play that game, but I want to play a new one. Maybe that's just me being like intimidated by the community of that game, which is definitely true. It's the same reason I don't really stream Age of Empires and stuff like that, is because I'm genuinely just intimidated by those communities. And Heroes of Might and Magic is very much that. But so I was kind of hoping that this would be like a lighter version of that and scratch that itch without like the overwhelming nature of the competitive community that comes attached to it. But maybe after a year of patches, I'll like this game. But what is probably a cool game appears to be just kind of overshadowed by poor decision making from my perspective. And one other thing I would like to note is after I uploaded my YouTube video of this particular game and put it up on the YouTube channel, I got a couple comments saying that if you try and do larger battles, so the ones I was doing was just me versus me and 2 AIs that were not on the same team, so it was like a 3-person map. The game worked just fine. Apparently the game runs really slowly in the larger battles, and also like the AI in the overworld can break. If there's too much stuff going on and too many different battles happening, they like won't attack each other, or they won't attack you. They'll like walk right up next to you and not attack you. So there's some weird like AI things that will probably get smoothed out in patches, but is maybe worth noting. It's one of those. It's published by Goblins Publishing, and it seems to be just like a single person development job. Goblins, they if you're unaware, they put out. Legend of Keepers, I think, is probably their most well-known one, and Banners of Ruin, a couple of other games that people have talked about on here. They seem like a cool publisher, and they put out neat things that I talked about this game earlier, really being interested in playing it, and I'm disappointed. That's my babble about Heroes Hour. So, the one other game that I have on here is Aperture Desk Job, which I don't think either of you have played.
No, but I'm very interested here.
No.
So I know you like Portal games, for example, a lot, and you were pretty hyped for this one as well when it was announced.
Yeah, I got super excited when I saw this. So first off, it's about 30 minutes long. It's free. So before I say anything, I'm just going to recommend that you play it. I'm not going to talk about any story stuff. I'm just going to talk about what the game is mechanically. Mechanically, it is an advertisement for the Steam Deck. Your character is glued to this desk. And of course, that's where all of the Portal-esque writing and comedy kind of comes in around this desk, because you're literally stuck to this desk. There's points where you need to move, and they're like, and don't forget your desk. It's like it's a 30-minute long on rails narrative experience. Like there's no moving around. It's all just like a flat space. There's some on rails segments where you have to like point at things, but like it's very much we're going to walk you through all of the controls on your controller, because I had to play it with an Xbox controller because I don't have a Steam Deck. We're going to walk through all of the features of the Steam Deck on your controller. So it's like, this is the element. Point at this thing. Use this thing to type at this. You have this feature to do this. So that's what it is mechanically. As a game, it is an addition to lore that we never had for Portal. And I am a really, really, really big fan of Portal. And I love the world of Aperture and Aperture Science and all of that kind of like absurdist insanity, like, and just like the aesthetic of those games and everything. I love Portal. It's probably my favorite franchise of all time, just in games. And I'm very happy to see something that isn't Aperture Bridge Constructor. What they call it? Portal Bridge Constructor Portal, I think was the name of it. Yeah, that's it. I'm happy to see a spinoff of the Portal franchise and like the Half-Life universe that isn't Bridge Constructor Portal, because that game it didn't hold up in the writing, it didn't hold up in the art design. I never finished it because it became hard to play after a while, because it's like, this isn't Portal, this feels like a cheap knockoff of Portal.
Yeah, it was pretty
everything
much
about this
the Bridge Constructor game, but just with the Portal skin.
Yeah. Whereas this, it holds up. The writing is the same level of quality. The jokes are funny. The quips are good. If you've played Portal, you'll realize about 5 minutes in what this is actually about, and it'll make you feel all warm and fuzzy. You get to run into old characters and hear new voice lines by the same voice actors. It's great. I really, really, really enjoyed it. I'll probably replay it at some point. I wish they'd put achievements in it or something so I could have reason to go back to play it again, because I don't know. It was just a really enjoyable 30 minutes, and I like short games. It's free. Go play not Bridge Constructor. Go play Aperture Desk Job. It's great.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, how long was it? But
I've only played it once, and I didn't really take my time or anything, and my time on it is... I think it's like 34 minutes. 34 minutes,
Yeah, so
yeah, and
pretty short.
that's including like turning on subtitles in the
so
menu.
it's like short enough to really do at any random day.
Yeah, just play it. It's good. It is an advertisement for their tech, but it is a entertaining advertisement for their tech. So, and I wish more companies would do playable teasers. I mean, PT's a bloody legend. So, I think that's is that it for games for us here? All right, we're going to take another quick break here. And when we return, we are going to discuss the news. We'll see you again right after this short break.
Do you like indie games? Or what about strategy? Are you tired of screen shake and motion blur? Stop by my streams on Twitch to discover new games and experience wholesome community interaction in a simulation sickness-friendly environment. You can find me on twitch.tv/2dkiri. I'll see you there.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Sui's least favorite section of the podcast. This is the news section where we talk about the news that's happened in the last week. Before we actually get into more newsy things, we're going to talk about some world stuff real quick, so buckle up. Everybody has seen the news. We all know what's going on between Russia and Ukraine and what's going on in Eastern Europe. So I just kind of wanted to take this moment to kind of highlight a few things in the games industry that are helping to support people that have been displaced and helping Ukraine in their efforts. So the first thing that I would like to highlight here is one John Romero, who little indie developer. I think he made a game called Doom, and a bunch of other things. Anyway, legendary metal daddy John Romero released a level for Doom 2, which you can buy from his website Romero. Which is I think it's literally just romero.com, but you can buy it from his website. It's €5, and 100% of the money goes towards supporting Ukraine, and it's a new level for Doom 2. He's done these before. He's released a couple independent levels, including I think they were called Sigil and Sigil 2. I think is what the names of them were. But they're basically expansion packs for original Doom 2. One of the first-person shooters, or at least one of the first popular first-person shooters. So if you are an old fogey like me and you still sometimes go back and play Doom, maybe go chuck €5 at a good cause and play a level of Doom. I don't know if there's anything else that needs to be said on that subject aside from shout-outs to good old John for doing awesome stuff. The next one is This War of Mine has been giving 100% of their profits to Ukraine relief efforts, where they are, as they have done in the past for other scary events. This is 11-Bit's own This War of Mine. 11-Bit Polish publisher. This War of Mine always had a charitable portion to it. They've always given portions of the revenue of this game to various humanitarian efforts to stop wars around the world. The game itself, This War of Mine, if you've never played it, is from the perspective of civilians in a conflict. It's a pretty heartfelt game and can get kind of tough and heavy in places, but I do really love the game. I actually put like 50 hours into it at launch. I actually had it 100%ed. Then they added 10 more achievements. Then I 100%ed it again. Then they added 10 more achievements. And then I kind of got halfway to 100%ing it again, and then I was like, you know what, I'm just going to stop. And now there's like, I'm not even 50% complete. And they stopped doing that. Anyway, so great game, This War of Mine. All of the DLC was on sale last week, but that's continuing on for another week. So another one that I can shout out here is Darkwood. Developer Acid Wizard is jumping on with This War of Mine, and they worked with their publisher, who isn't 11-Bit, but different Polish publisher, smaller Polish publisher. They're also donating 100% of their profits for the next week to Ukraine. I know Kiri has played Darkwood. I don't know if either of you have, but very good game.
I've played This War of Mine, but not Darkwood.
Wonderful atmospheric horror thing. It's a nightmare, but play it. It's good. Next on this list here, we have Good Old Games, is no longer selling their games in Russia. And between them and CD Projekt Red, they're donating roughly $220,000 in support and funding to Ukraine and relief efforts. So there's that. And lastly, alongside of a billion different social media networks and other big sites, just in game specific, you can no longer buy games from Microsoft or EA Games in Russia. One other thing that I would like to note as well is even in Russia, some studios, I've seen screenshots of this from some members of my community, that some studios are setting their regional pricing to the American dollar instead of the ruble in Russia, so that games are now suddenly costing like tens of thousands of dollars in equivalent, just to kind of make a point, which I think is worth noting because, like, while it's scary, it's, I don't know, it's worth mentioning. But yeah, I hope everybody's doing their best to keep safe, keep out of lines of fire, and go home.
There's also a lot of news that not just direct donations, but a lot of the companies are helping people who either worked for them directly or have been somehow involved, like with Ubisoft and GOG and CD Projekt Red, obviously, and all of these Eastern European game developers, especially. They're like helping also people to get out of the country and supporting them in multiple different ways, which is insanely awesome to see. How all of gaming industry is just coming to support not just their own, but also like the whole of Ukraine.
Looking at it right now, it's like I really don't expect Stalker 2 to come out this year at all anymore. And like Stone Shard, which is a game that I famously dislike, put out an announcement with their most recent patch saying we don't know when our next patch will be because half of our team is in a war zone now.
Yeah, obviously there's going to be a lot of delays, and probably many games will not come out at all because of this as well.
Yeah. Man, if this cancels Stalker 2, I'm going to be so bummed in like 5 years when I realize that. But yeah, I don't know. It's dark times. It's a scary world that we live in. But I figured that it was worth mentioning here at the very least. So once again, you can buy a Doom 2 level from John Romero. This War of Mine has raised $850,000 up until now and is still going, and Darkwood has just joined. I've also heard rumblings from various peoples at certain publishers that there's going to be another itch.io bundle, that because they've done several over the past 2 years. There was the Black Lives Matter bundle, which did huge. There was the Free Palestine bundle, which also did extremely well on itch. And there will be one for Ukraine coming. So there's also that. And also worth noting, just this morning, I started up a Tiltify campaign, which I'm just going to kind of let sit in the background on my channel indefinitely. And I know FG also has one as well, both going through the same group, which is Project Hope. And that's supporting civilians and displaced refugees in the area. So if any of that sounds good to you, go do something good and help some people out. Now let's go into more of the normal news. I think Bandcamp got bought by Epic.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising news to see. But it also makes a lot of sense. It's where you get a lot of especially smaller artists posting their music and then integrating that into the whole Epic family of games development, because obviously you need music for game development as well, which will then be an amazing bridge for like smaller artists to possibly get their music into anything that runs Unreal.
So, like, for clarity's sake here, in Bandcamp's notice when they state that they are joining Epic Games, they more or less make it clear that they're going to be operating as an independent entity. They just simply have the parent company of Epic Games. And this was, like, I spend the majority of my spending money goes to Bandcamp, more or less. I buy quite a few records off of there. And my initial reaction when I saw this pop in my email was after I'd been streaming for an hour, I spat my coffee back into my cup and shouted "what" really loudly. I don't have the same animosity towards Epic Games that some people do. I know that there's definitely some people that have some very strong emotions against Epic Games. I don't think that Epic Games' business practices the way they like their business model for the Epic Games launcher of going out and seeking out exclusives. I don't think that applies to Bandcamp at all.
No.
And so the main reason for people disliking Epic doesn't really apply to Bandcamp.
Yeah, outside like the store that a lot of people don't like, if you look what they do with like supporting developers and actually getting resources and money and everything around is actually really, really good. And you get to really argue against that. And if they get some kind of like same kind of support for Bandcamp and resources to develop the whole Bandcamp into an even better thing, that only can lead into good things.
Yeah, I mean, Bandcamp doesn't really need help right now. Well, the one thing that like really started to make sense after I thought about this news story for a day was something that Fortnite does is they want Fortnite to be a platform. They don't want Fortnite to necessarily be a game. Like there's multiple games within Fortnite now, right? Like there's the normal like Battle Royale mode, but there's also a definitely not just Among Us mode, as well as other things that they do. They also put concerts in Fortnite. To me, like they also recently purchased Harmonix. To me, this seems like kind of a connection to that. Like suddenly they now have their tendrils into the pockets of a lot of musicians out there. And if they recently bought Harmonix who is being brought on to work on Fortnite as well as work on their own stuff still, since they purchased Harmonix, it makes logical for Harmonix for reference. They made Rock Band for anybody who doesn't know. And originally Guitar Hero. Since they're now in possession of Harmonix and also the biggest independent music distributor in the Western world, more or less, that isn't a major corporation or a streaming service, I think that there's pieces of this puzzle that start to make sense, but the thing that I just keep coming back to is don't you break this one, Epic. This Tim Sweeney? Tim, can I call you Tim? Yeah, just come over here. Don't mess this up. Thanks, Tim. That's all I have to say to Epic. Next one, if I'm just leading us through here. Suboi, do you want to talk about your experiences with Amazon Luna?
Yeah, so Blind and Bell let me know today that there's a thing called Amazon Luna that just launched in the US for anyone who has Amazon Prime. By the way, if you have Amazon Prime, you can also get Twitch Prime for free, which gives you a free Twitch sub to any streamer of your choice.
And loot for games you'll never use.
Okay, anyway, did you hear something?
No.
Okay, just checking. Sorry,
Just
I thought
something
I
on the wind?
heard like, Okay, anyway, yeah, so they've launched that, and since I'm in the US, I went ahead and checked it out. And they really don't have much selection yet, and I did feel quite a bit of lag. I would move my mouse, and then it would move, there was definitely a little bit of lag. And then, also, I found that there was now, the game I was playing, the start screen for it has rain in it, so that doesn't help. But when I moved my camera really fast, there was an area that was like a lit dashboard on a car. And when I moved where that is showing on the screen, it just artifacted really hard. So, yeah. But, I mean, it seems like if they just work on improving the tech a bit more, it could be worth noting.
So the thing that's interesting about Amazon Luna, for those of you who don't know, Luna is essentially just Amazon's answer to Stadia, which is kind of hilarious since like Stadia is like a null point in existence at this point. You can still use Stadia if you want, but like Google doesn't care. And Luna is just it's Amazon's attempt at taking the streaming platform marketplace for games, not too dissimilar to like what Netflix is trying to do and what Microsoft is working on with xCloud. And looking at this, I think that it's maybe one of the biggest threats to the space, purely in the space, just purely because of the fact that like it's connected to Prime. Within Amazon Luna, they also have 2 other subscriptions. So there's the base one, which is just included with Prime, just like Prime Video and all that. But they do have a second tier, which is like $6 more, which gives you more game variety. And then they have another package that you can also subscribe separately, which basically gives you Ubisoft Plus, because Ubisoft has their own subscription service, which gives you access to everything on there. Now, I don't know if this is active yet, but I was reading about this service a couple of months ago that it's supposed to have cross saves with your Uplay account. So if you also have a Uplay account and you're subscribed to Amazon Luna, then for the Ubisoft channel, and you also own those games locally, saves should transfer between the two, which is like the thing that, granted, you'll have to purchase them locally most likely, or they have to be on that streaming service. And so I would assume that that would work, which I guess could be a selling point if you travel a lot, if people do that these days. But I'm somebody who, like, if I'm on the go, I don't want to play a game like these, and I'm not going to get rid of my computer. So I'm kind of not in the market for these services. But considering it's already included in something that I already own, if it becomes available in Canada, I'd absolutely try it. Why not? I'll play some games.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested as well. Like, I always was interested in the Google's version as well, but the pricing and all of that just didn't really fit me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Stadia's issue was they wanted you to buy the games.
Yes.
But at least with this, like, it's just this is more the Game Pass model where you just have them.
They're kind of piecemealing it, like having Ubisoft games here and then the retro bundle here and so on and so on. So you start to get pretty expensive on top of your already like the Prime subscription.
But like, as somebody who does have Amazon Prime and I do watch things on Prime Video, I will subscribe to Shudder for 1 month, once every couple of months, which is like $6, and watch a bunch of horror movies, and then unsubscribe from Shudder. And like I subscribe and unsub the same day so that it just runs out after 30 days, and then it's fine. And I think that's kind of the way to do it with Amazon channels. I get it, but it feels like a service where, unless that is your only streaming service and your only source of media, you're never going to need to like subscribe to all those channels and just leave them running. Like, maybe you're on a retro kick and you just want to play retro games, you could subscribe to the bundle that has those. Maybe you just want to play a bunch of a certain type of story game, you subscribe to a bundle that has those, or a channel that has those. Maybe you just want to play I don't know, the Ubisoft stuff. You subscribe for 1 month, maybe 3, because you probably need to. But even like if it's $17.99 a month for that Ubisoft channel, even if you subscribe for 3 months, it's like the cost of one Assassin's Creed game. So like, depending on what you're doing, like, you can cost management it and make it make sense. But
yeah,
it's
just
it does become
obviously because we have PCs and everything to play things on. Like, for example, Game Pass is a lot more value for the money compared to this.
Yeah, I would agree. Especially if you have the computer to run it, or an Xbox, Game Pass is a much better service from what I've seen
I would,
at this point.
If this was like the Xbox Game Pass, but you could just play all of these games without having to install them, I would use that a lot. But having
Just
to
wait
like
until
piecemeal the
xCloud
prices
comes.
for this and that, then it makes it like not that interesting to me.
That is what xCloud's supposed to do, so they just need to launch that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully that one will be the game streaming service for me, like the Stadia and this haven't really they're so close to being really good. Like, obviously because of where I live, I have really good access to really high speed internet and everything. So I'm like a prime market location for this kind of a service, but they haven't really hit it yet exactly.
Yeah, I think that xCloud is kind of the big unknown. There's also GeForce Now, which I forgot about until just now.
Yeah, I found really good.
Like,
I haven't tried that yet myself, but several of my community members are using that, and they've been really satisfied doing that.
Yeah. I think that these services getting good is the thing that's hinging on whether or not I buy a laptop in the next 2 years. Like, if these services suddenly get good, I could see myself purchasing a laptop, like nothing fancy, just something fast, like something that I can either connect to a wired connection or have like good connect it to my Wi-Fi and like something that I can use in my apartment, that I could do work not at my desk, but also have like a portable gaming device that's cheaper than a Steam Deck. Maybe one day. We'll see. On the topic of the Steam Deck, Valve has open sourced the SteamOS dev kit client for the Steam Deck, which is rad. So you just go and download the SteamOS, and then you have access to the Steam Deck.
Yeah, this is
Dev
obviously
client.
really good for just the users and also for anyone who's wanting to develop for the Steam Deck.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is fantastic because it ties right into the story that we have like lined up right after it as well, which is there is some stick drift on the Steam Deck and users were worried about it, but because it's open source, there's already a patch for it. They've already fixed it. So it's kind of a non-issue, but just to kind of show you the power of what happens when communities have control over a thing.
Yeah, and Steam
awesome.
Steam Deck seems to be doing extremely well. Like, people are really enjoying it, and obviously there's over like 1,000 games you can play on it already, and everything. So I can see this is like really taking off. Like, people like their Switches and so on, but when you already have a massive Steam library and you can suddenly play it on a portable device, I can really see the interest in that and value for myself as well. Like, I have a Switch myself as well. I don't really use it that much, to be honest. I don't really feel like buying games for it. But if I can already play the games I already have on my massive Steam library, I can see myself using the Steam Deck much more.
I'm not going to say that there is a version of MAME and a version of Dolphin that already runs on the SteamOS, but like I don't think I need to. I can just say that it does.
Yeah, being an open source in general, like you're gonna see a lot more than just the Steam games there. Like, people are gonna use it for all kinds of things. Since it's basically a handheld portable PC.
And one other thing about the Steam Deck is if you lived in Seattle and you bought it day one, there was a very legitimate chance that Gabe Newell may have delivered it himself to you in the last few days.
That would be interesting.
Gabe Newell was literally driving door to door with a delivery truck, delivering Steam Decks by hand, direct to people who purchased them within the day.
He was doing also very interesting
interviews
while using the Steam Deck and like showcasing playing Final Fantasy 14 on it and talking about all kinds of things.
Gabe Newell's always struck me as one of the few people in this industry that didn't go totally nuts when he got a lot of money, but maybe he's just always been completely nuts, so it just like blends in.
Yeah, just in a different way.
Yeah, Gabe's insane in his own Gabe-y way. I like Gabe. He seems like a cool dude.
I mean, everyone needs to be a little interesting in some way. It's like if you're just a boring normal, it's not fun. And you have to be insane in some way to bring some spice to life.
Have a massive collection of knives and buy a racing team and donate all their profits to charity. You know, be more like Gabe. Anyway.
I mean, you could spend it worse as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's kind of our news section of the pod, I think, unless there's anything I've missed in here, which I don't think
No,
I
I think we got everything. Lots of not happy news and some good news.
Well, yeah. Anyway, you know what is happy? We got some user questions that were submitted on our Discord, the Halcyon Frequency Discord. You can find that over on the Halcyon Frequency website. There's multiple links to the Discord on the website. Just go to halcyonfrequency.com and scroll down to the bottom. You'll find a link. In that Discord, there is a room called Podcast Questions. Ask us anything. Anything. Within reason. Suboi, do you want to take the first one we have here on the list?
Sure. So we got a question from Cutest Ghost asking first game we've played. So I'm assuming this is like in our life.
I would assume so too. Yeah.
Yeah. For me personally, I guess I can go first. I grew up and my dad had an NES. So I played that a little bit growing up. So that was my introduction. It's since I can remember. I played some of the Super Mario Brothers games on that. And then I played Bubble Bobble, and then they had this Disney game that was like a Mickey Mouse thing. and it was like a little platformer thing, and I was never able to get past the first boss, but I still really liked it.
What console was that on? The Mickey Mouse thing?
NES.
Okay, gotcha. I think it was Mickey's Magic Castle or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Bellinaire, any ideas? Where should I go?
I'm not sure. I was trying to think about what the first game I played may have been. It's been so many years ago. But it's probably some NES stuff as well, like original, like the Super Mario or something like that. Very likely as well. I played a lot of... I was a Nintendo kid back then, so I played a lot of stuff on that. But I also played a lot of games like on Commodores and Ataris and some of the really old platforms. But I'm not really sure where I started from exactly.
Like a Commander Keen?
I mean, that's more like PC stuff that came a little later. But it was definitely like NES was one of the first ones that I really got into. So all the Marios and Zeldas and Mega Mans and all that.
So I cheat with this one because I have the first game I played within arm's reach. It's in my sock drawer. I could pull it out, but this is an audio podcast, so it wouldn't really benefit anybody. I have the original disc for the first game that I played. The first game that I played is Demon Attack on the Tandy 800, I think was the name of the computer, which is a Radio Shack brand DOS PC. Nice. Demon Attack was a multi-platform release. It came out on the Atari 2600, various PCs, and it's basically like a Alien Invaders clone or Space Invaders clone. It's like you're down on the bottom, your little triangle shaped ship, and weird things with bat wings fly down towards you, and you shoot little lasers up at them, and you move back and forth. Then I couldn't tell you what the second game I played was. It was probably like something either on the Super Nintendo, because that's what I remember my cousin having. I don't remember him having anything before that, but aside from that, a lot of my early memories of games are a lot of like N64 at my cousin's house or various weird PC games at my friend's house. But I do remember the first new still in the plastic wrap game that my parents gave me, which was SimCity 3000. I still have that disc too. That was the first new game I got myself that wasn't acquired illegally or through illicit means or from a used place store. But
yeah, SimCity back in the day was amazing. That was a kind of gaming-changing game for me as well, like the original SimCity on the SNES. We used to go to Sweden because I lived close to the border, and games used to be cheaper in Sweden, and they had much better selection. So we used to go there, and there was this toy store that used to trade like video games, and we did like every couple of weeks we went to Sweden because also food and everything was cheaper there, and also all kinds of products that you don't get on this side of the border even these days. But that's like everywhere, very, very close to the border. But we went to this toy store always to like trade in my current games and get some new games. And I was like, none of these games really interest me currently. I don't know what I want. And asked for the shopkeeper to recommend me a game. And he's like, "You look like a person who likes building stuff." And I was like, "I got this game SimCity," which apparently wasn't selling really well. Which is why he was trying to get me to get it. But that shopkeeper was correct. I really enjoyed SimCity, and it kind of set me on the path of playing like a building games that I do even these days.
Hey, Belle. I have a question. So were the games in English when you got them, or were they in other languages? Because like I'm a American who's very ignorant of knowing that kind of thing.
They were on English. Everything was.
Okay.
I mean,
back then, localization was like null point in existence, right?
Yeah, everything was pretty much released in English in Europe. And Finland is a kind of weird case in that as well. Like a lot of European countries like Germany and others, they dub like movies and TV series and so on. But Finland doesn't really do that outside like children's, like really young children's like TV shows and so on, like movies. And everything else is in whatever the original language was, and then everything is just subtitled. So we get a lot of exposure to other languages very early on. And that's actually like how I learned English originally myself. One of the first games that really forced me to learn English was like the original Zelda on NES. Because some of the things like secrets on that are super cryptic even in if you know English really well, and trying to be like a 9-year-old kid that doesn't speak the language or read the language in any way really, and try to understand those. And then there's like Willow and all kinds of these like NES RPGs, for example. Like somehow I made through all of those. Without knowing like any of the language, but you really quickly, like, young kids pick up languages so fast. Like it's insane how quickly like you pick up words, and you see an item on the screen. It's like, okay, this is a sword. Okay, that's a sword.
It's like they haven't gotten their they haven't gotten fully filled up with distractions, and they still have a lot of free time to just sit there and stare at stuff and figure it out. It's like me learning how to play Fire Emblem games in Japanese, even though I definitely never learned Japanese, but I finished a Fire Emblem game in Japanese, so that's... that took a while. I'd already played other games, and the structure's pretty similar, but figuring out how to like get through the main menu and into the game is a little challenging at times, but... So the next question we have here, also from Cutest Ghost, is what's your favorite alcoholic drink?
Well, I don't really drink, so it's kind of hard to say. I do enjoy, like, you. I think it was actually you who recommended me to try like raspberry sours and similar ones, and I actually do enjoy those quite a lot.
Like sour beers.
Yeah, and especially like the kind of berry or fruity ones. Basically, stuff that doesn't taste alcohol.
a lot of sour beers, especially like the super fruity ones, end up tasting more like kombucha than beer. Like there's a brewery close to here called The Bakery, which I talk about a lot, that actually makes like tea beer. Like they'll make like a rooibos tea, like pomegranate beer, and it's like, yeah, this just tastes like kombucha, but also like it gets you drunk because why is it 10% alcohol? So
yeah, that sounds like something I would probably like normal beers or anything like that. It's not really my thing. Yeah. Although, actually, this is a kind of Finland-specific one. The salmiakki vodka is actually pretty good because it doesn't taste of alcohol. It's just like a liquid salmiakki. It's extremely dangerous to drink because you don't really... it's just a nice salmiakki and then you're passed out somewhere.
God, I wish it was like legal to ship high alcohol content like across borders because I want to try that now.
There is a... well... I mean, liquids in general is kind of hard to send, but there is actually like a mixer bottles for that as well. So without the alcohol, you just add your own.
Interesting.
Well, I only really drink when I go out to like a restaurant or something, and I'll just order whatever cocktail sounds the most interesting. I haven't super learned what I love yet because, you know, COVID and all that. But yeah, I mostly just go to a restaurant and order like some kind of fruity cocktail, and then beyond that, I do really like white Moscato wine.
Yeah, I think I could get into those girly cocktails as well.
Oh, they're so good. You don't taste the alcohol at all, and they just kind of taste like a dessert.
Yeah, I think I could totally get
fun.
into those as well. It's just I rarely get into those situations where I would actually order something like that.
So this is really a really tough one for me to answer because I like a lot of different types of alcohol. My favorite style of mixed drink, if I'm going to get a mixed drink, is either an old-fashioned, which is whiskey, or a gin and tonic. And which one I'll order depends on what gin they have and what whiskey they have. So that gets complicated really quickly. When it comes to beers, my taste in beer varies very widely depending on season and mood. But recently I had a growler, which is a 2-liter bottle of a very low percent beer. It was only 4% alcohol, but it was a coconut chai lager. And it was... It tasted like cold, slightly alcoholic coconut chai, and it was. I finished that in like a day and a half. I drank 2 liters of beer, and it was such low alcohol content. Like I didn't even really get drunk off of it. Like I just had a pint every like 3 hours for 2 days. But that was nice. But yeah, I don't generally have alcohol at home, and my favorite beer is usually whatever I either had last or whatever was good that I had last. So I can always pick out a few recent things, but selecting my favorite alcoholic drink is difficult.
Is that one you were just talking about available in the U.S.?
It's made by a brewery called Dogwood Brewing. That's like, I think their brewery is like in a garage at the back of a warehouse district. So I doubt it.
Oh yeah, they're in.
They're definitely a tiny craft brewery. Like I had it in their brewery. The problem with beer right now is like I can't even get like Ballast Point up here anymore because ever since not the current American president, but the one before, put a bunch of laws in place which made it very expensive to ship alcohol up here. There was one liquor store that used to try to still ship American macro brews, like the bigger breweries, up to Canada, and like a 6-pack of beer here is normally like between $8 and $16, depending on how fancy it is. A 6-pack from one of those breweries down in the States, like Ballast Point, for example, was going for $70 because of fees. So yeah, nobody buys them. So they stopped. Like it's like impossible to get American independent stuff up here, and it's gotten only harder to get Canadian independent stuff down there. So I see that as very unlikely.
Yeah, we kind of have the opposite.
I'm trying to find it, but I'm seeing like nothing.
Yeah. Well, if you ever come to Canada, call me, and I'll take you there. But Belle, do you want to take the next one on this list?
Sure. So Cutest Ghost is still asking us favorite things.
MVP.
And this time it's a favorite wild animal. I know what FG would say on this.
I oughter not say anything about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my dad joke for the episode. Zoe, what's your favorite wild animal? Go.
It actually fluctuates between tortoise and elephant.
Tortoise and elephant.
It's because in elementary school, the reptile man came into our classroom. There's a story behind the tortoise. Okay. And they asked for a volunteer. And I just, I had a habit of raising my hand for everything because I was just that one kid. And so I raised my hand. Then he picks me. And I'm like, wait, this is the reptile man. This is the snake guy. What? Why? Why did I do this? And I'm instantly regretting it. I'm terrified. Then he pulls out a plastic bin and opens it up. And there's just 2 tortoises there. And I got to hold a tortoise. And, they're just such sweet, adorable animals. And then elephants are also, really smart and sweet, too.
I watched a video of an elephant walk up to a tree, knock the tree over, uproot its roots, flip it over, and then scratch its bum on it. And you know what?
That's sick.
I appreciate that. My favorite wild animal, and the reason I'm calling these wild animals is because they absolutely should not be in captivity, are vipers. They're beautiful, beautiful, beautiful danger noodles with a very, very, very sharp nose that you want to avoid because you will die if they bite you.
Some of them are so pretty.
They are gorgeous. I can watch videos of vipers just doing viper things all day. They're not very smart creatures. They're very dopey. There's a lot of really funny videos of vipers in a tree and then they shift themselves slightly and falling out of the tree. They're super dopey creatures, but they are often very brightly colored and wonderfully cool critters. I love vipers. Closest thing we have to dragons, really.
Yeah. Oh, you have bearded dragons that are actual dragons.
They're just idiots, though.
Yeah.
Bearded dragons are so dumb.
Yeah.
I had to take care of a bearded dragon once, and those they have no depth perception, so they're actually pretty blind. And you put them on a sofa, for example, they'll just walk off the sofa, fall, land on their face, and then just land on their feet, and then just kind of sit there for a second, what just happened? They're not very smart. But like I don't live where they run around in the wild, but in Australia apparently where they come from, you can just like walk up and pick them up because they're just like so docile. Like they're just not very smart creatures. Reptiles, not the smartest, very cute.
Yeah, for me, I guess I'm not sure really. Like I've never really thought about what like my favorite animals so much. But I always liked birds, especially when I was younger. My grandparents used to have this like a bird book that had like drawn pictures of birds, and I always really enjoyed those. And especially like a kingfisher is an amazingly pretty bird.
And so like I'm looking at the time right now, and we are kind of getting up there in the minutes. So I think we'll do one more here, and we got one from Prismatic Flux, which is an older one actually, which was answered on a previous episode. My answer to this one is nuts. But what's your go-to snack?
I personally really like goldfish crackers. Like, Suboi keeps having to buy me like the gallon-sized box of it. And if you let me, I'll go through that in like a week and a half. But I try to pace myself because I don't want to gain a ton of weight. So, yeah. I love crackers.
Yeah, for me also it's like a meaty, salty things usually. I like beef jerky a lot. It's great, quick snack. But yeah, I really need to up my game, especially during streaming for snacking and get a little more healthier snacks. And in general, have snacks during stream.
It's funny. I feel like this is just me as a streamer because I started off this way too. Almost like so many streamers that I know, like when the first like few years they stream, it's always like energy drinks, pizza, fast food, quick food, snacks. And I definitely started off that way. Like in the early days of me streaming, there was definitely a couple streams where it was like, all right, guys, I'll go for another 4 hours if you order me 2 pizzas, one for me, one for my partner. And like that was like it back in the day. And now it's like I make a sandwich before I start stream. Like I drink a lot of water.
Yeah.
Streamers all got kind of health conscious all at once.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like we've been sitting at 2 years inside doing nothing but streaming. So suddenly health consciousness is like something to think about.
Yeah. I don't know. I clued into like my body falling apart in like 2018, so that's around where I started paying attention.
Yeah.
I think that kind of takes us to the end of this here episode of the Halcyon Frequency podcast. So before I do shout outs and whatnot, I just want to say if you like this show, if you want to hear more of this show, you can find that over at the Halcyon Frequency website, which is just halcyonfrequency.com. And if you want to help us out, you can do so by following the team's account on Twitter at HalcyonMHZ megahertz. And if you want to help us out even more, you can go over to our one of our pages where you can find this podcast, which is any podcast platform where podcasts are found, and leave us a review if they allow for that, or take it and click the share button and put it on your social media, whatever that might be, a Discord, a Twitter, a Facebook, God forbid, maybe a Reddit or somewhere else that you happen to like posting. Because that is the only way that podcasts grow, is if people talk about them in public spaces. So now that we're done with that, Sui, where can people find you?
Yeah, people can find me at twitch.tv/Suey. It's spelled Suwey. I also have a YouTube channel that I'm somewhat okay at posting to. I'll like queue up a bunch of videos, and then I will forget to do it for like 3 or 4 weeks, and then I'll queue up a bunch more, so it's kind of like a little all over the place. But yeah. And then I have Twitter too, at Suey Streams.
Yeah. Bellanair, where can people find you?
Well, you can also find me on Twitch, Bellanair on Twitch, and then Bellanair TV pretty much on every other platform, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, which I haven't actually upgraded in a billion years, which I probably should. And, well, through the Twitter and the Twitch, you can find all my other things as well. So just hop in there, say hi.
And if you want to find me, you can find me over at twitch.tv/BLINDIRL, BLINDIRL on Twitter, and Blind on YouTube. I also just put up a 2-hour-long chat where I got to talk with not one but both halves of Bay 12 Games, Zach and Tarn Adams, which I recommend giving a listen to if you're even remotely interested in Dwarf Fortress, because there's just some fun bits in there. There was also a part where they accidentally leaked something they weren't supposed to, so I had to bleep it out, which is now confusing YouTube commenters very much. Don't tell them that they can just go listen to the Twitch VOD where they definitely just say it. Anyway, maybe someone will figure it out now. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to this here episode of the Halcyon Frequency Podcast. We'll be back next Sunday. We'll see you all next week. Till next time, I think it's time for us to say goodbye.
Bye.
So bye.